What's up YouTube, welcome to the video. So the topic is create a login and registration form using C# and connect it to the Firestore database. So let's get started. So I'm going to create a new project of type Windows form. So there it is. And we will use the .NET 7.0. Now first of all, delete this form 1 and I will make two folders, forms and another one, classes, to make it neat and clean. In the forms, I will create login form and a register form. Now we need to go to the program.cs class. This is where all the .NET application starts, and we need to change this to login form. So we need to define this reference whenever we want to use one of the forms. So now let's start designing the registration form. We need some text boxes and some labels. And let's make the font a little bigger. And change this to username. And it should be drop down list. And let's customize the items. And let's make them flat. One more thing remains is that we need to name these buttons. So registration button, log in button, and this will be user box, pass box, gen box, zip box. So after this, copy them and paste them in the login form. We don't need the gender and the zip code. Let's make this a little smaller. and this will be called back to register. Also change the name to back to register button, and this will be login button, and this will be just login. So first let us create the back to register function. So we will hide the current form, which would be the login form, and then initialize the registration form, and then we use a method form.showDialog. Then we close the form that was previously open. So first we hide the login form, open the next form, and then close the previous form. Because if we directly close the form, the application will turn off. So I will just copy this, come inside the registration form. Now let's create the back to login function with the same code. We will just change the form. I should zoom it a little bit. This looks good. So now let us get the configuration from the Firestore. So this is my database, and if you are new to the Firestore, I insist you watch this video because it will build you a solid Firestore foundation, and all your concepts about Firebase or Firestore will be cleared. So I have already created a Firestore database. So I need to go to the project settings, and in the service accounts, generate a new private key, and open with Notepad. Now we need to create a new class, and we can name it Firestore Helper, and this will be a static class and a static field, a static string fire config, which will be equals to add, and then I will copy all of this here, just like that, and then static string file path. We also need to install the Cloud.Firestore NuGet package. Just type Firestore and you have to download this package. You can see that it is updated not so long ago, so it's being updated once in a while. So it's installed. Now I need to create another variable, which would be I need to first define the or let the Visual Studio define the reference itself. This is the advantage of using the Visual Studio 2022. So now a method. So this is the safest way to define the configuration, and set the environment variable without exposing the JSON file. Otherwise, the way Firestore work is we need to give it a configuration file, and the configuration file would probably be in the same directory as the application, but anyone can see the JSON file and see the private key. So for security purposes, we will create a file, copy all the configuration, and then delete the file using our C# code. So I am going to define the file path, which would be, this will get the path of the user's temp folder. Then combine this path with path dot get file name without extension, and inside that get random file name. So this will give me a random file name, and this file will be generated in the user's temp folder, and I will add dot JSON in the end. After the path is generated, I will write the file dot write all text, and it's good. So now for some additional security, I will set the attribute of the file to hidden. So the file would be hidden, and then I will set the environment variable. So this is defined in the Firebase official documentation, but it's not clear how to define an environment variable in C#. So the documentation sucks. We will give the file path, and then the environment variable is only needed to use this method. So Firestore DB dot create, and we will have to give the project ID inside this create. So this initializes the database instance, so we can use this to add the data or read the data or whatever we want to do. So I would want to make this database public, and let's make it a property. So after the database is created, I am going to delete the file. So the file would be created in the temporary folder of the user, of the current user, and it will be created with a random name, and it would be hidden, and it would be deleted after the database is created. So this is the maximum security that we could provide. Now I will use this function in the program.cs before the application even starts. Set environment variable. You can see that because I'm using Visual Studio 2022, so my references are getting defined by themselves. So this is it, our environment variable is ready. So now we can start writing the code to register the user. Now register user. You can see that there is a little warning, and it's because the Visual Studio 2022 has started showing this warning whenever it sees a nullable data type. So we have to define a question mark to verify that this data type can have a null value. It's not necessary, but if you want to get rid of the warning, you can do that. So now let's create the register user event. Let's create a separate function. So let's define the username. So the username will be taken from the user box dot text dot trim. This will trim the text for any spaces in the start or in the end. String password. Now we need to create a new class which will be called user data, and this class will have properties. So the username. These fields won't work unless I define some attributes which are Firestore data. So this class will get this attribute, and these properties must be defined as Firestore property. So now we will return new user data. So the username is equals to username password. So let's write the code to register a user. First I need to define the DB, which we will take from the Firestore helper dot database. Then I will define a variable which will call this function, and then a document reference is needed to define the structure, and our structure will be DB collections. User data will be our collections name dot document. Now to write this data, we will use docref dot set async and provide the data. Then write message box dot show. So this is the function to write the data to the database. Let's also create the login function. So inside the login form, the login function, we will take the username, or let's take it from here. So we need the username and the password. So the password shouldn't be trimmed. The document reference, so the document reference would be the same, and instead of this I will define user data, and let's get the data from the doc reference. So get snapshot async dot result and dot convert to, I will convert it to the user data type. So it will convert the data into this class type, and then we will authenticate the snapshot if the data is not null, and if the password written in the text box matches matches data dot password, then we will show the success message. Otherwise, we will show message failed. And in case of data is null, if username is not found, we will also show that it failed. So this is it. But we have to take care of one thing more, and that is I need to copy all of this and come inside my registration form, and I will create another function which will check if user already exists, and inside that I will not authenticate. I will just check that if the data is not null, then return true, otherwise return false. So before writing the data, we will check that if check if user exists returns false, then message box dot show user already exists and return the function. So the function will return. I am creating the function at the wrong place. It will be created here. One thing remains is that we need to save the password in encrypted form and then decrypt it and then authenticate. So for that, I am using the code from this website. So you need to copy these three functions. So create a new class and we will name it security, and inside that paste all the functions. And you don't need to change any of these, just use them. And this class should be static as well. Just use these functions here. Security dot encrypt. So we are sending the encrypted password, and inside the login we need to decrypt this password. So security dot decrypt, we will decrypt the password that is coming from the database. Some other things remain, that are we need to use password char to true and then put static over here. Do the same in the login form design. We need this form at the center of the screen. Actually, I don't need to put the not symbol here. Hello, 1 2 3. Register user. You can see that it's telling me that it was successful. We need to refresh the Firestore. This is a drawback of Firestore, that when we create a new collection, it doesn't get refreshed by itself. But after the collection is created, if we add new documents, then it gets refreshed by itself. So you can see that the user is added and you can see that the password is encrypted. So this is not only base 64, but it is a encrypted password. So you cannot decrypt it with just the decoding of base 64 string. So let's now try to create the same username with different password and different zip code. So register user, it says that the user already exists, so it's not letting me re-enter the user. Now back to login. When I type hello 123 and the wrong password, login failed. But when I write the correct password, it says login success. So it's decrypting my password and then authenticating that if the password matches. So this was our application. This shouldn't be back to register, but this should be something like sign up, but you get the point. So this is all for the video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel. See you next time.